All right, good afternoon, everybody. I am gonna call to order the Open Space Committee regular meeting. It is Tuesday, February 22nd, and it is 5:06 p.m. If we can stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and
to the republic
for which it
for which
stands,
it stands,
one
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you.
Yeah, the prime time kind of makes a nice spot, actually. It's not a bad place to have a meeting.
It's just Tom. Tom couldn't make it in person, so now we have our quorum via Zoom, so which is good. Mr. Selectman Hull just walked in.
Oh, Lenny, okay, good, good.
I just saw your post.
Oh, no problem. I'm gonna kind of. All right, so we'll jump right into it. Our first agenda item was old business, which is collaboration with an appointment of members from other committees. This is something that we've been talking about since
A long time.
like November, I think we started this, and it seems to be one thing or another that keeps deterring us from getting it done. And now we're into budget season, which makes it
Challenge.
a little bit more challenging, but I think and this is kind of falls on me. I'm gonna really get on top of reaching out to all these people and making this happen, because it's most of the committees and commissions that we're reaching out to aren't necessarily people that are doing budget reviews and stuff like that. It's just trying to get like town administration to kind of assist us in reaching out to some of those people. I think I know the concept, I spoke briefly prior, like back in November when we first started this, to the conservation agent, but I gotta, they were having a difficult time. I think that was like the one committee that was,
Lisa Caledonia.
correct. That was the one committee that was having a difficult time. I think we were having a difficult time getting in touch with an actual member of the committee. To set something up, because Lisa wouldn't be their liaison on this. It would be somebody on conservation themselves. So we'll have to, I don't think we had any discussions with them whatsoever. I know Brett's not with us tonight, but like he's also the liaison to the Agricultural Commission. So I'll probably use him as our point person to reach out to them. I think we should just to review too. So the committees and commissions that we do want to reach out to should be conservation, agricultural, Parks and Rec. I know a guy over there who probably come back for.
Seriously.
Well, actually too, I don't know if we necessarily would be, I don't think they'd be maybe join our board as a liaison per se, but we definitely probably want to have conversations with folks from like ZBA and the planning board, because as we start discussing more of this open space residential design bylaw, I mean, those are the folks that will be dealing with that sort of stuff anyway.
Yeah, that's
Also might be input from the conservation agent herself would be good when we get to that part, but I'm just trying to think of.
important, yeah. Now, when you talk about conservation, is it all right to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a gentleman that's on the CPC who has trouble coming to the CPC because he's on conservation. So we changed it to 6 o'clock. He was still having trouble, but he did make the last one, but that's the thing. A lot of people are on different things, multiple boards. You're trying to get volunteers. I mean, I couldn't get a quorum for a while.
Yeah, no, it certainly is difficult. I mean,
And the times are, it's difficult, the times.
Yeah, because some people don't want to have multiple meetings in a week, or sometimes it falls
Right.
late, but we can.
We've met on holidays on DDIC.
Also, I think Trails Committee was another
Yes.
group that we were had talked about having somebody, because this does tie in, part of like the open space recreational plan ties in a lot with the trails committee. I mean, can you guys think of it? Tom, can you think of anybody else? Any other committees that would?
Well, we're DDIC, you know, the Development Industrial Commission. Was Lenny's involved with that? So he's right there.
That's gonna be like as things come up.
As you need, maybe as needed.
Correct.
We have an individual on our committee that is an urban planner. Rather than talking to the whole committee, if you need somebody with that kind of skill set,
Mhm.
and he's a Dayton resident, he's a representative of Tottenham's Chamber of Commerce, is Jonathan.
Oh, and I know Jonathan very well. Yep.
He's good, yeah.
So
I don't know.
obviously,
Police,
like
fire.
these things that get, if opportunities come up where we want to talk about, you know, exploring, putting like land trusts and things like that. So obviously, like you're a representative.
Oh,
of
what
the-
about land use?
Yeah, that could be somebody too, land use, absolutely. But I was just thinking, like, so if opportunities come up and we're talking about, you know, trying to do like a land trust or a conservation, you know, putting if somebody's interested in putting land in chapter land, like that's something that you would tie back into on CPC.
I don't know. Do we tie into that?
You would, because part of, so if open space wanted to purchase or not.
Oh,
open-
land. Yeah, that's right.
Wanted to
Yeah,
purchase a piece of land if somebody was
That's
putting it
true.
for conservation,
we've been approached on,
but conservation
not
restriction,
officially, but I've been hearing things about land and such.
it wouldn't necessarily be, it wouldn't be, open space would make a recommendation, it wouldn't be us purchasing the land, but it's a conversation that would happen between all those different.
Yeah, that's true. Land use. What other ones are there? Your police and fire, they talk to you pretty much with Park and Rec, I would think.
But I'm just thinking of more committees and commissions that act like have some interest in the same work that open space is doing.
What about wastewater?
No, because that's gonna be more, that's more ties into building.
Yeah, that's conservation.
Stormwater, yeah, so that's gonna tie back.
Stormwater is what I meant. Yeah, stormwater. That's Nancy Goulart's, one of her specialties.
You're trying to get this again. Well,
No, I was just, no, this is, no, because it doesn't, I don't think it needs to go into a bylaw review, it's just gonna be. If those individuals on those other committees are interested in joining us, they would just be,
But your goal is not for this June, for the town meeting, because it has to be voted on at town meeting,
what's that?
a bylaw.
There won't be a bylaw. We're just adding members. We're we're brainstorming ways to add members
Oh, okay.
to buffer our quorum. And like our original idea back in November when we talked about this is if we can get somebody from these committees and commissions that have a shared interest that open space does, you know.
Well, it's gonna be part of the requirement of the residential bylaw,
What is that?
getting these people from these other committees.
When we start talking questionnaires and things of that nature, yeah.
That's a long.
It's a long
that's a-
road.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, from just briefly reading, I'm like, oh, you get all these people together to
Well,
sing Kumbaya together and then put it all on paper and.
mhm. Yeah, I think,
know.
yeah, actually, if we wanna, I know who we need to reach out to, so I'll get back on, because I already sent out that email back in, I think it was, like I said, November.
Yeah.
To start those conversations, and the majority of the people were interested in attending our next meeting, but then it was like, oh, this one has a meeting the same day, or so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So if we can, we're gonna set a goal for our March meeting, and I'll like immediately get on this, I'll send this out by the end of the week. And try to get these folks on board to at least attend our March meeting and have a conversation with them and see if they're interested in, you know, forming like this actual, where they're actually would become members. So if they're willing to become members, we'd have them fill out an application, just like each one of us. And then we would put it, you know.
Would you let them vote? make them voting members?
Yes, it would.
That's good.
Yep. Well, that's the point. So we'd put it before the Board of Selectmen to approve the appointments, and then we would.
That's what you need nowadays. You
Well,
gotta have,
essentially, if any one of us, 'cause right now, if any one of us is,
I was out sick.
vacations, whatever,
Can't have a meeting.
we don't have a quorum, so it'd be nice to just buffer the quorum.
Another
Right.
great idea.
All right, so new business is the open space residential design bylaw, which last meeting we talked about, and we started to review a couple other I think we looked at like the town of Acton and a couple of other places. I'm gonna try to pull up Westport's.
Yeah, you had Westport the last time.
Yeah, Westport was very nice, the way they had it.
I mean, you take another town's residential bylaw or the open space residential. And you can use that as a guide as you're building yours.
Well, and that's really what we want to do is take pieces of other towns that have us that are similar to Dayton and pull pieces or even be critical of pieces that we don't like and outline them so that we know, all right, that's something we definitely don't like in our bylaw, actually, because we were, when in our last meeting, I can't remember the town that, I think it was Acton, but I'm not sure. There was a couple of things that we were like, oh, well, we don't want that
Yeah.
here because that doesn't.
Right.
It was, because their open space residential design bylaw was like promoting developments.
Yeah.
Which obviously is not something that this town seems to be interested in. Whether it be.
The town should be interested in revenue. As much revenue.
Once the well is purchased from Somerset, that will change.
Just trying to pull this up.
$6 million. Keeps going.
I thought it was done. It hasn't.
I'm not- They say.
Yeah.
Sign the building.
Yeah.
So even like when we're talking about, especially, a residential design bylaw, this is something that maybe we ask to attend or have a joint meeting with the planning board, with the ZBA, because we want to see, and I mean, obviously we can look it up, it's in our bylaws, but we want to see, what the restrictions are now, what's the minimum lot sizes and things like that, and then build off of it. Because obviously we don't want to.
You'll have a connection into the ZBA. Should be elected tomorrow.
Which is good, because then you can share, well, that's good, I mean, because then it gives us a segue for information about what ZBA is doing. But the planning board is who's approving, lot plans and things like that
Yeah.
before they go to building, for permitting and stuff, so, because you like that whole, like, if you're gonna build a house right now, it goes planning board, conservation, building. So really, we want to pull the information, or at least we can do a little bit of our own research, but sometimes it's better to just ask and get an explanation from both committees, like what are our requirements now and how do we want to expand on that to really put this forward. Because that's going to drive to how much growth we have in this bylaw and how in-depth we get in writing it. I mean, it's good. That's our current zoning. Is gonna drive this whole thing.
Bill's gonna have to be involved at some stage in this, right?
What's that?
Not Nalapano.
He'll have insight into what other towns will do. He's always been helpful with finding the right language as when it ties back, because And actually too, he had, I haven't heard back from him. I did send him, actually, just make sure I know what he's trying to get on in case he does try to zoom in. He had mentioned last time, in email that, there's a woman from,
When we were talking about the Auto Bond Society.
thank you.
Something on that.
Yes, the woman from the Auto Bond Society is now working with Bill on Serpent. So that's somebody that we can certainly pool and get some information with.
Yeah.
I think maybe we need to just, because I've invited Bill to the last 2 meetings, but I don't think he's logged in since that one. I think it was
First one.
the first one a couple months ago. So maybe we can reach out to him and see, you know, if they can point us in the direction of what towns we should be looking
Yeah,
at.
He's a cool cat. I can learn a lot of stuff from him.
He
He's
is
smart, that guy.
Short period of time. Bill
Napolitano.
Oh, you know?
No, I met him that one night. and I'm like, oh, I want to.
Wealth of knowledge.
Yes. So let's, I'm just gonna write it.
You know, I'm in the SpongeBob mode, so I'm just trying to soak.
Yeah.
You know?
I learned a lot in a short, you know, since April.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just gonna make a note here that I'll reach out to him in an email to, maybe he can give us some guidance to look at similar towns. Well, and they probably have them on record where he could directly share them with us. So
Yeah.
instead of us having to like go
Well,
search for them.
I'll be quite honest with you. My technical end of my computer stuff is lacking professionalism. I'm just kind of, I mean, I got all that Google Docs down,
Yep,
you know, and I don't know if, did you see any of that I put on there, the minutes and
Yes.
stuff?
Yeah.
I just didn't see any response from anybody. I'm like, I wonder if these people saw it. And I would go back like every day and check to see if. somebody-
yeah, and well, actually, you know what, that's a good point, because when
I
we
just
do
didn't
put,
know, you know, because
I should respond, yeah.
did I do it correct?
well, there is, when you go into the Google Drive, there is a spot too where you can just, like, you know, you can just write a comment on the side. So that's a good point for future reference. We can just be like, okay, got it, or, you know,
Yeah,
just as a heads up,
something-
yeah.
Yeah, just to say.
Well, that's like, because I know you had emailed me too,
Yeah.
so I was like, yeah, I got it, looks
Well, I
good.
just want to learn, you know,
Yep.
and I had my daughter with me at the time, so she was kind of like guiding me through it a little
Yep.
bit, you know?
Kevin, when we formed the Dayton Industrial Development, Bill passed off to another representative at Serpent.
Mhm.
If you get in touch with Mike Mullen, he'll give you the contact.
Okay, it's probably that.
The reason why Bill didn't want to pick us up, which would have been ideal, was because he's a Dayton resident, is the fact that he was too busy. So that
Yes.
might be the reason why he hasn't gotten back to you. But this woman, and we don't use her that often, so if you get the contact information from Mike, just say, Mike, who's the Serpent rep? It's a female
Okay,
from the Dayton Industrial Development Commission. We'll be able to give you that contact information. I know Brett talks to Bill a lot also.
yes. Yeah, no, and like, well, the whole time that we were doing the open space recreational plan, like Bill was there every meeting, like he was really like a driving force behind us getting that, like bringing that home. But yeah, that's good to know. I mean, and then, I mean, she could just be an additional resource too, so. Go back to try to. Tom, have you had a chance to look at?
I
any
have.
additional,
I've looked everything over, but I have not responded back, but I will start putting little notes on it. I didn't know you were looking for that. When I see stuff, I'll put notations on there.
No, well, and I know, like, essentially, we're all kind of.
I'm doing my homework.
With all this,
Exactly.
and it's definitely not something that,
If you,
I think that's the thing, it's like, we pretty much, I think we need to set. Because we've had general conversation, maybe we need to set goals, for our next meeting, like, so, I mean, even just that. Reaching out to Bill for guidance, for for similar towns or the new rep, whoever it may be. Maybe we want to reach out to,
I mean, when you give me homework, I do it. You know, I do look at this stuff. But I was on this before you came on board. But then they lost everybody, then they started it up again. I don't know.
yes.
You know, it's funny. But
Yeah,
then,
and I came in really on the tail end of the open space recreational plan. So it's like, even that, like, I don't have a wealth of knowledge.
well, you got a good ambition and everything, you know.
Most of the time.
I mean,
My ambition
don't give up.
my
Don't give up,
ambition
man. You
is
know,
dwindled
don't give
a
up.
little bit. The twinkle in my eye got ripped out last
Yeah,
week.
that tends
I'm
to
feeling
happen.
better today than I did this
I
weekend.
didn't know they pulled your eye out, but I mean, it was rough. Yeah,
It's all good. It's all part of the learning
it's all
process.
good in the hood. I mean, I was, you know, I don't
Bumping them up, too.
want to go there, but you know what I mean. I was there.
Yeah, so I think
You know.
we reach out to the planning board. We can reach out to the ZBA, and actually, so if you're gonna, you know, there's the good possibility that you're gonna be a ZBA member, so you can kind of at least form, you know, start that conversation for us.
Were you put in for that too?
Yeah, I'm talking about, as a matter of fact,
Oh, I thought it was
Gail,
Leslie.
I
I thought Leslie had put it.
no.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
I'm gonna be on the
Okay,
ZBA.
good, good.
Oh, too, I remember, so there was the questionnaire from the open space recreational plan. I'll go back to that and I'll find it and I'll highlight it in the Google Drive. Because
Okay.
I think we should look at that also and then figure out if there's pieces of that. I mean, it's kind of, some of these folks have already answered some of these questions, but we might want to
Now,
still,
not to stop
No.
you, but that questionnaire, I think I briefly touched on it. That was from like a few years ago,
It's
it's
old.
old, right? Yeah,
It's
I thought,
old.
I'm like, oh. this is
yeah,
old.
so like that, let me see if I think I should be able to pull it up. Yeah, that questionnaire is old, but there still might be some relative questions, and obviously with some of these committees and commissions, there's probably new people involved that might have a different answer than there was before.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
What about, you think they might do a new master plan? I mean, the one we have is the town administrator mentioned it's a living, breathing document, but I mean, I'm wondering, is there any, I mean, Lenny's, Mr. Hull's there, so I don't know if he knows anything about the future.
Okay. Ideally, you do them every 10 years. They are due. It is a great undertaking. I was involved in the one around 2000. It's not, it's many, many committees. It is a massive undertaking. Something like that should be coordinated through Mike Mullins' office.
Mhm.
Is it warranted? Absolutely. But it involves many school departments involved in it too. We have trouble getting them submitting a capital outlay plan, never mind a plan for the next 10 years.
Well, and that part of this should go into the master plan. Well, so the open space recreation plan is part of the master plan, and so, and this it goes like the open space plan is good for so many years as well. So, you know, it should live in the master plan until then. They'll probably, sounds like they both will probably change at the same time or be amended at the same time. So far, anytime I could be sitting on the couch and I could find any document I want.
Not here.
When I'm here and I'm trying to find it, I'm like, no idea. But yeah, so I mean, we can still we'll just talk about it. I do go back and I'll find it on the computer. And I'll just send it back out, so it's kind of like, or pin it up front so we can find it easily. Then we go back to that questionnaire, see what questions, like, and if each of us just, you know, flips through it, on Google Drive, there's a little sidebar for notes. So maybe if like we, like if Dave, you go in and be like, I think we should keep questions 1, 3, 7, 9, whatever. And then if we can think of any other questions that we want to add to it, we can do that as well. As it pertains to a residential design bylaw. Yeah, all right. So actually, I got this pulled up. I did find this. So there's, and I think we shared this to Google Drive because I'm in it right now. There was the Smart Growth, Smart Energy Toolkit bylaw from the state. And it's model open space design, natural resource protection zoning, which is essentially what we're doing. And just a brief overview. So this is really our narrative of what we want to do is, says provided here is an open model space design, natural resource protection zoning bylaw ordinance and companion subdivision and special permit language. This model bylaw ordinance was adapted from the NRPZ bylaws of the towns of Brewster, New Salem, Shutesbury, and Wendell, as well as the open space residential design bylaw ordinance. This model replaces in the Commonwealth Smart Growth, Smart Energy Toolkit. In the planning process, local officials are encouraged to work with legal counsel and to involve diverse stakeholders in the bylaw development process, including developers, landowners, conservation groups, and the regional planning agency. All right, so that automatically ties back into what we're talking about, who we want to reach out to. Because the open space design model bylaw ordinance deals specifically with subdivision of land and or the site design process, communities will need to think carefully about existing provisions in the subdivision rules and regulations and any other local regulations, example, wetland protection bylaws, board of health regulations, etc. As an innovative approach, open space design may create conflicts with other dimensional regulations, criteria for right-of-way and travel lane width, sidewalk specifications, utilities, finished grading, turning radii, and stormwater management are examples of site design elements that should be reviewed and modified as appropriate. The recent Sustainable Neighborhoods Roadway Design Guidebook issued jointly by the American Planning Association, Massachusetts chapter, and the Home Builders Association of Massachusetts is an excellent source of guidance on road-related design elements.
What, I mean, if we're looking at other towns, wouldn't we be looking at our border towns? Like Swansea, Somerset, Berkeley?
You could, but if those towns
Do they
don't,
have,
if they don't have a open space residential design bylaw, then if they're just, strictly going by their zoning bylaws, then it's gonna come down to probably just whatever, minimum lot size, minimum frontage, which is essentially what we have now. So we're looking to grow and expand on that. We're essentially gonna improve those bylaws. So what we're looking to do is add more restrictions to preserve the open space in the town. Yeah, so actually this too, and I'll pin this back to the front of the drive also. Because I think this might have came up, I might have found this right after our last meeting, and I'm not even sure if I put it in the right space in the drive, so I'll make sure it gets, this is directly from the state, taking some of what
Well,
they.
like I said, I played around with that, and I looked at every one in there, and I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
And, I read them, but it didn't seem like it was registered in my mind. I was more concerned of being able to work around that Google Docs and get comfortable with it. I wasn't really reading, I'm like, oh, I see that.
Well, no, it might be easier too, is like something like
No,
this.
it'll come, believe me. It doesn't seem like it's hard at all. It's just a matter of getting.
Well, even something like this, where it might be easier instead of trying to fiddle through, is like, I'll just send this, like the PDF of this directly in an email, because like This is I mean, I'm flipping through, it's pretty extensive.
Yeah,
But it gives examples of, and this is all built off of what those initial, the first stated towns up top,
yeah,
how they started. And how they helped develop, this is like pretty well-written guidelines. Yeah, like say even like, so just for example, general requirements, housing types, housing units within designated town shall be single-family structures within the town, all housing types allowed under the town of are permitted, and then it gives you a list of acceptable dwelling units. Parking requirements, dimensional requirements. Setbacks. Yeah, and right here, it's even written into there. So this is right into there. What would probably be planning where the planning board would come in. So they have open space requirements. So a minimum of 60% of the land area of the open space design shall be set aside as permanently conserved open space. So you also can't, say you buy a house lot that's a half an acre. You can't, the structure you put on it can't consume more than 40% of the square footage.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's outlining that way, like this particular town used 60%, but, and then it says as an alternative, 50% is generally accepted as the minimum for open space designs and similar zoning measures. That also too, that ties into a little bit of accessory buildings. So it's like you couldn't necessarily, you wouldn't be able to occupy the land with, you could build them a 800 square foot house, but then you can't put a, 5,000 square foot garage out back because it's defeating the whole purpose. So it kind of holds you accountable to keeping the space open. But yeah, I'll put this one right into an email. That way we're not searching, because this is really what it's looking like. This is going to be essentially our Bible for moving forward. Can you guys think of anybody else that we should be reaching out to for, I mean, besides just Bill from Serpent and then planning and ZBA? Oh, I'm conservation agent. Probably also too, I'll probably share this document itself with the conservation agent. I mean, the chances are she's probably already seen it. But maybe she can give some input on what portions of this she feels are, prioritize, help us prioritize it.
I've been watching those conservation meetings, and I'll tell you, she's got her hands full. She does.
Oh, yeah.
Not reading it.
So the Board of Selectmen through its history has not had history of kicking people off.
Yeah. Gotcha.
There actually is too, as I'm just kind of scrolling through. There is a little bit about wastewater disposal. I'm sure Nancy would be more than happy to give us some
Oh, yeah.
feedback.
That's her thing. She likes that.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know how, this is how it always goes. We have homework,
Homework is good.
always giving our homework. I mean, we'll get there. I think to having input, I mean, because there's just three of us. We're all, you know, I know Tom was on it before, but we're kind of all just kind of starting to gel.
Just three.
That's it, three. And usually Brett is
Well,
typically here, but
he
he was,
can't vote.
no, he can't vote, but Brett has been a part of the process the whole time, so he has a ton of knowledge on, like, you know, what we've looked into already and where to look for certain things and who to reach out for. But I think it would be helpful, again, if we can get some of these other committees on board for March too, because it's just three of us, it's like, and we're just starting to, you know, gel and move forward. It's tough for us to think of all the things that we need to be thinking about. So having some additional outside input would be extremely, extremely helpful.
Have you reached out to the other members of the board of selectmen about expanding this board from 3 to 5?
This
Yes.
this could be up to 7.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not, we have space, we just don't
Nobody
have
wants, yeah.
the interest.
We have the open space.
Yes, there's plenty of open space on the open space committee.
I don't know if Ken would allow it. Sneak it in tomorrow night to get it on help wanted, because we do that.
Well, I've done a couple of times. I've done, you know, committee spotlight, I think twice for open space. I think it really comes down to the fact of the matter is the largest group you're gonna reach is on social media. So it's like, you gotta go to the Facebook groups. But what's funny to me is we have a ton of people who are very active in speaking against, you know, subdivisions of, you know, of any kind, or, you know, massive building, but we can't seem to get anybody to jump on something like that. So I think that's what, I mean, if any of us know people who think they might be interested in helping this, because this is the way to do it. I mean, you can go on Facebook all you want and give your opinion, but I mean, this is kind of where the work needs to be done. If you're writing a bylaw is the way to.
What about this, I read this request from this proposal. Reach program.
Where's that?
Knocking, it seems like knocking on doors. This was dated the October of 2020. Neighborhood outreach project.
Oh, so neighborhood outreach, I mean, and we certainly could do it for membership as well, but the main, so there was
I mean, it sounds like you're gonna go knock on doors and sit and ask them about their property, right?
Yes, so that came about because there was actually some resources, some grant resources available. And it was mostly to do information sessions, help people that say they wanted to designate their land as like chapter land and put it into conservation, or those are, you could do community forums and things like that, or hold like a town hall.
So
and
none of
invite
this was
people.
ever done?
No, not at that time, because we were right at the tail end of we're kind of like in a little bit of a crossover position, because I think Tom had just come back, you were just coming on.
Yeah.
Ellen, the prior chair,
Yeah.
moved out of town and resigned.
Yeah.
Jessica, the other member who was the clerk, resigned. So we just hit this funky
Yeah.
transition period. That is something, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's probably something that we'll put on our next month's agenda also, because I think it is important that it's something that we start thinking about. There are probably folks in the town who would like to see their land put into conservation, or, you know, so there are some different land trusts and with life use. There's a lot of options out there for people
Yeah.
that don't want to see the land get turned into housing,
Right.
you know, after they're gone.
You know, not to stop you, but it is amazing as I drive around town now, I have a total different outlook. It's like I'm looking at this land, I'm like, what's that land?
Mhm.
Where's that land? I gotta look that up.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what we're doing with the Dayton Industrial Development Commission. We're identifying land.
Yeah, you just look at, you know, I mean, I've driven in this town since, you know,
Mhm.
late 70s.
And there are people.
You know, you just look at it
who are
totally different.
negotiating with some of the landowners. Hey,
Yeah.
you know, what are you gonna do with that land? Retire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely something that we should start looking
No, and I
at
read
too.
this, I'm like, oh, this is, I mean,
Well, and two, at the end of the day, I mean, the residential design bylaw is gonna be a lot of work, but there's also other things that we need to do as a committee also,
Yeah.
and things
Like that.
like that.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean, I
Because
realize.
that's probably the
this
best
committee-
way to
This
preserve
committee's
land.
gotta be more than just writing the
Yeah.
residential bylaw. I mean, we're supposed to be looking for open space land, right? And
Cor-
writing.
And that's something too, like, we'll have to, look at the GIS map and see,
Yeah.
certain pieces that are attractive that might be put into, restricted.
And you gotta
things
have
like
the
that.
money. You gotta have the money to buy it too.
Well, you never know, not necessarily, because I mean, there might be individuals that are interested that don't know the options available.
Yeah, that could, yeah,
Don't, like, say for instance, Sweet Knolls Park. That's probably a perfect example of somebody that just didn't want to see the land get turned over to development, so they donated it, now it's a state park. So those opportunities do exist, I mean, they may be rare, but you don't know unless you ask. So, but you can always reach out, and I think it might be important, maybe once we see some nicer weather, late spring or something, we could hold a community forum and talk about the options that are available. Send out some sort of publication to reach out to individuals and let them know that these options are available. So if they want to put because a lot of these, is just land designation. It might not necessarily be selling the land. Actually, prime example too is what just happened with the Reeds, where even if we go into where the town has first right of refusal, those, but not everybody knows that those options exist, and that's kind of part of what we need to be doing.
Kevin? Right now, we're going to have two official groups and some people in town hall that are all doing the same thing, identifying the land and putting dibs on it.
Mhm.
The one thing that I ask from your committee, this committee, keep Mike Mullen in the loop.
Mhm.
So that, you get an idea, you want to use it, and your committee has an idea, you want to use this piece of land for this,
Mhm.
and that industrial development's got an idea what they want to use it for. Chris McGee has an idea what he wants to do with it. The
Mhm.
Friends of the Library have an idea what they want to do with it. And everybody's reaching out to these landowners, and it's going to confuse them. So please keep Mike in the loop. So Mike might say, no, we're already looking at that for this.
Mhm.
Property. The Reeds, block the line. Please.
yeah. Mr. Chairman, I just thought of some, what about trails? Trails.
Yeah, we have
committee.
trail.
Are
We
they
have,
on there? All right,
yeah, we have them in folks that we want to collaborate with for sure.
yeah. I was just thinking of trails for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, other than that,
Sounds good.
again, back to home. So I know Dave had, so the next thing is just our minutes. So we were gonna approve the minutes from January 17th. I saw him, Dave wrote them. Did you get a chance to look at them, Tom?
I'm fine. I don't have anything no additions or corrections on my end.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
So I'll make a motion to approve them if you want.
All right, so
From,
motion to approve the minutes from January 17th, 2022.
please.
Second time.
Dave seconds. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Tom,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Kevin, aye. All right. Next, public input.
Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hull. Anything you want to add? I mean,
No,
I always
think
entertain
what
public input.
I will tomorrow night. If I get the opportunity. I think I will put a plug in, that open space needs some help.
Mhm.
Now, with that in mind, you're working on a bylaw? Or you're gonna upgrade a current bylaw?
We'll so we don't currently have an open space residential design bylaw.
Okay,
So
So
we're
you're
working
working
on
on
creating.
so there is a need for additional members to join the board to help in the creation of this.
Correct.
I can do that.
Thank you.
And as I mentioned earlier, right now, there are 3 groups. Just keep Mike Mullin in the loop.
Yeah, well, and sure, well, for us too, that would be the first thing that we would do is ask about, hey, say we see a piece, what's up with this piece? It wouldn't,
Yeah,
You know.
and Mike will know.
yeah, and he'll know. So. And again, so we have no power to actually acquire any land or anything anyway. It would just be like if we saw a piece that looked, like it would be of value for,
Yeah, so
for our open space,
let's
we would
talk-
make the
let's talk about
suggestion.
that. What would be the process? We found a piece on Center Street somewhere. We want to purchase it for conservation.
So,
What would be the next, what would be the next step? We go to the Board of Selectmen, we go to Mike.
no, we would actually, well, probably in this instance, we would probably go to Mike and
Mike.
see what is happening with that piece of land. And then the Conservation Commission would actually be the ones who would approach, like, say, for instance, CPC, if they wanted to purchase
Okay.
that piece of land strictly for conservation.
Okay.
So,
Just trying to-
or it could even be,
Just trying to pitch the flow, that's all.
or say, if I say I found a piece for Parks and Rec, and I was like, oh, you know what, that'd be a beautiful place, like, say if we didn't own Tricentennial.
Yep.
And like that piece was available, that would be something like, okay, that'd be an attractive piece for a waterfront park, like, just to
Now-
give
Now,
examples.
just so you know, this is why it's really important to talk to Mike. If there's a tax lien or any lien on the property that you're looking at, before it comes to the Board of Selectmen, it has to go to the assessors.
Mhm. Well, again, too, for us, it
So
would be,
that's why I say go to Mike, because
Yeah.
Mike will know. He might say.
He'll
to
say
you,
it's
like,
got a
we-
tax lien.
So-and-so wants, got his eyes on that.
Mhm.
Or he may say, it's got a lien, we gotta go to assessors.
yeah, and again, for us, it's like, it's almost out of our hands, because it would be like, at the end of the day, it would be, hey, we see this piece. Does conservation want it? Does development, industrial, like, we're just advisory
Right.
anyway, so we're not even, we might,
So in other words, using a car analogy, we're just locating it and passing it off to see. if
right,
somebody
yeah,
wants
because I
it.
think that, it's in the best interest of the commission to find pieces
Plus-
that would be attractive and then pass it
Yeah.
on to the appropriate group.
Plus land use.
Correct.
Land use, that's what they do, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Holton. Land use committee.
Many reports from land use. So I don't know where they're at.
All right, well,
Well, it does help, because this way here, trying to coordinate efforts is so important.
yeah, I know. Believe me,
Mhm.
if there could be more collaboration, there could be less hesitation. Is that the word I want?
Yeah,
Well, on the
More
positive
collaboration.
note, there's been a lot more activity by committees and people involved this past year
Mhm.
than in quite a while.
because we're all bored, couldn't go anywhere because of COVID. Now,
Yeah.
We
Something to
gotta,
do with it.
we gotta encourage that, that's a good thing,
No, it is.
No, it is a good thing.
because we don't want government to be of a few.
No. But. All right, thank you, gentlemen. If you, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Tom,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Kevin? Aye. So motion is adjourned meeting is adjourned at 5:55. Thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Linear. Just, Dave, know there's a meeting?